welcome to a brand new episode of Battle Cry with me, Shiv Arur, the only show on television that gets you up close with Indian warriors, Indian weapons, and how India defends itself and fights. It's the 88th Indian Air Force anniversary, Air Force Day, Air Force Week, and Air Force Month. And that's why on Battle Cry this time we're going to focus on what's coming up next for the Indian Air Force in terms of weapons as well as systems. We're looking into the future of the Indian Air Force.
Indian Air Force turns 88. What comes next for the Air Force? We gaze into the future. From a stealth combat drone to a fifth-generation fighter and India's most capable cruise missile. The future is air power. On Battle Cry.
Well, speaking of the future of the Indian Air Force, I'm going to start Battle Cry with the very near future. The Nirbhay subsonic cruise missile, with a range of over 1,000 kilometers, nuclear capable, is very close to being finished with its testing phase. In fact, the interesting thing is, even before its induction, a limited number of these missile systems have already been deployed so the Indian Air Force can get a feel of what this weapon is really all about. Here's the story of the Nirbhay, very soon to be in the Indian Air Force.
What is this object? Cruising swiftly, but with just so much speed that it can be filmed this way by a fighter jet. What you are looking at in the middle of its flight is India's Nirbhay cruise missile. Filmed from a Jaguar jet. This weapon will join the Indian Air Force in a matter of months. First tested 7 years ago, the Nirbhay is a formidable long-range weapon that adds a huge capability to India's missile arsenal. The Nirbhay is a subsonic cruise missile, which means it flies at just under the speed of sound, but has a formidable range of up to 1,000 kilometers. The missile is capable of delivering a nuclear warhead, is currently being tested for a road mobile truck platform, with a ship-launched and air-launched version planned in the future. India today has learned that a final test of the Nirbhay is scheduled for some time in the next few weeks, after which the weapon will be cleared for induction into the Indian Air Force. But in a hugely significant move, the Indian military has deployed a small number of Nirbhay systems in the northern sectors amidst the Ladakh standoff to give the missile a pre-induction workup and get crews prepared for its use. Capable of low-level terrain, hugging flight to avoid radar, Nirbhay cruise missiles can hit targets deep inside Chinese territory. And since they are nuclear capable, they will be part of India's strategic deterrent. Still powered by a Russian turbofan engine, the Nirbhay is expected to become fully Indian going forward, with the development of an Indian cruise missile engine in advanced stages of development. While the Nirbhay, in its current avatar, is a land-launched surface-to-surface missile. It is being developed as a possible air-launched version for launch from the Air Force's Su-30 MKI heavy jets. as well as a ship-launched cruise missile like the Brahmos. You see being fired here from an Indian Navy warship. The age of the Nirbhay is right ahead. Bureau Report, India Today.
You sometimes hear about fourth generation jets and fifth generation jets. Well, it can get a little confusing, but the Rafale is a 4+ generation jet, and there are aircraft like the F-22 Raptor or the F-35, which are 5th generation jets. Does India have a 5th generation jet? Well, you're actually looking at a picture of India's design concept of something that's going to come in the future, in fact, in this decade itself. Here's the story of the AMCA.
The F-22 Raptor. The F-35 Lightning II. The Sukhoi 57. The only 3 5th-generation fighter jets currently flying. You're probably wondering, does India plan to operate such jets? Before we tell you about the Indian Air Force's plans, let's first tell you what a 5th-generation fighter is. While definitions vary, it is generally agreed that 5th-generation jets boast all-aspect stealth features in terms of shape, airframe, materials, and electromagnetic performance. These jets have the most advanced avionics and sensors built into a high-performance body, with all of it brought together by a combat experience that involves integration of the jet with other sensors in the air, space, and on the ground. The Rafales that flew in public for the first time at the Air Force Day flypast are designated 4th generation jets. So now to that question of whether India has 5th generation fighter plans. Presenting the AMCA, short for Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. That's the working title of India's under-development 5th generation fighter. Like the 5th generation jets flying with the US and Russia, the AMCA is being designed for advanced features and performance. The AMCA, a prototype phase of which will take off in 2027, is being designed with all the 5th generation trappings, including stealth, advanced sensors and avionics, smart internally held weapons, and super cruise. The ability to fly faster than sound without engaging fuel-hungry engine afterburners. If you're wondering whether China has 5th generation fighter, theoretically, yes. The J-20 is set to flaunt 5th generation features. But with very little known about the jets, experts continue to question whether it is truly a stealthy aircraft. But that does not mean the Indian Air Force does not have catching up to do. The leadership has put its full weight behind the AMCA program.
We are fully committed to the development of the 5th generation fighter aircraft on our own. More AWSGs, UCAVs, and a host of ISR options in the future. With the help of private sector, IF has already graduated to an electronic maintenance management system for all our flying platforms and combat assets.
Mindful of time and cost overruns, the government has also decided to execute the AMCA program as India's first ever public-private partnership for an advanced defence program, with India's HAL and DRDO to shortly form a joint venture with a private sector giant that is to be chosen shortly. If today is the age of the LCA Tejas, the Sukhoi 30 MKI, the Mirage, the MiG-29 and the Rafale, tomorrow will belong to the AMCA. Bureau Report, India Today.
The human behind the machine is always going to be indispensable, no matter how far into the future you look. But what about unmanned systems? We already have drones, but unmanned, fully autonomous combat drones? Well, no matter what you think about its feasibility and whether it can replace manned aircraft, India, you'd be happy to know, has a program to build an unmanned stealth bomber. It's called the Ghatak. Take a look.
Fighter pilots won't be out of job anytime soon. Their skills behind the stick of combat jets won't go out of style. But if the future of warfare needs unmanned forces, where does India stand? India developed and now flies the Tejas and is developing a future stealth combat jet, the AMCA, that we told you about. But there's another program under the covers, and it does not sport a cockpit. This is the Ghatak, a concept stealth unmanned combat air vehicle. In effect, a remote-controlled stealth bomber that can be programmed to fly into hostile airspace, pick up targets and destroy them. Still in preliminary design and development, the Ghatak is designed to be invisible enough to radar and sensors, to penetrate hostile airspace and strike targets. The program is still far from a full-scale first flight, with smaller test models already flying, courtesy aerospace engineers at IIT Kanpur, who have been enlisted to help the national program. In the meantime, a scaled test bed model called the Swift is under preparation for possible test flight in the next year or two. Modeled on flying stealth combat drone concepts like the French Neuron, American Phantom Ray and the British Taranis, the Ghatak is India's most ambitious aerospace effort. Cynics will wonder why India is even looking at something this complex before first getting basic fighter jets right. But the future won't wait, and the time to start is now. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, the Brahmos missile is already in service with the Indian Air Force, both the land-launched version as well as very recently the air-launched version. Well, here's the thing about this supersonic cruise missile. It's just got a huge boost in terms of a range extension that makes it much more lethal. And this, again, is very near in the Indian Air Force's future.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now.
The unmistakable roar of the Brahmos. Screaming into the air, this supersonic cruise missile is the fastest weapon in India and one of the fastest in the world. But this unpublicized test from September 30th, a video of which you're seeing for the first time here on India Today, wasn't just another test of the Brahmos missile. You cannot tell from these dramatic pictures, but the weapon being tested here is a beefed up Brahmos. While the Brahmos has for long been restricted to a 290-kilometer range, this test last week saw the Brahmos being tested at ranges well in excess of 400 kilometers. Also invisible to the eye are a slew of improvements that make this weapon significantly more stealthy. With this range extension, several more targets come within range of the Brahmos missile, including several air bases, military establishments and Chinese army depots in Tibet. The speed and stealth of the Brahmos also ensures very little reaction time to its targets. The Brahmos, in simple terms, is now a threat to many more Chinese targets than earlier. Brahmos missile regiments are already deployed in Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh at this time. With the range extension updates to the missile, they get longer legs. Theoretically, every Brahmos in service can now sport an extended range, including the Brahmos on Indian Navy warships. The air-launched Brahmos from the Indian Air Force's Sukhoi 30 MKF fighters, and most immediately, the Army's large number of Brahmos regiments. The hugely significant extended range Brahmos has been tested up to 400 kilometers, but will ultimately be pushed to over 800 kilometers, making it the most fearsome strike weapon in the Indian arsenal. You can be sure that China has taken note. With Shivarur in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Wishing all of our air warriors across the country happy landings, happy hunting and a very happy Air Force Week from all of us here on Team Battle Cry. See you next week.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.